The Mariners' inactivity this offseason has us, but more specifically Colby, reaching unhinged levels of trade ideas. Today, we're going to talk about some of those, as well as some veterans the team could bring in on an invitation to spring training. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Wednesday, December 20th, 2023. This is Ty Gonzalez and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners podcast, brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more, and right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn, that's LOCKEDON, to get yourself started. Thank you so much for making us your first listen. Subscribe, like, and turn on alerts if you're watching on YouTube, or subscribe and leave a 5-star review on your preferred podcast platform if you like what you hear. And if you're part of the crew and rock with us every single day, let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. And if you want to hear from us even more, please consider signing up for our Patreon. You can now get a free 7-day trial to check out the show. The link, as well as our social accounts, is in the description of this episode. And on the show today, we're going to step into the terrifying mind of one Mr. Colby Patnode and see what kind of ridiculous trade ideas he's got stored in that cranium of his. And if you don't like it, blame the Mariners for not doing anything, because this is all we have at this point. We're also going to go over some veteran players we think the Mariners could bring in on a minor league deal with an invite to spring training, something we talked about on our Patreon show yesterday. But let's get into these absolutely cracked ideas from the lovely man to my left here, or to your right if you're watching right now. I was minding my own business on twitter.com last night, just scrolling through, seeing, hoping and praying if the Mariners, or if a tweet saying that the Mariners had finally made a move would come across my screen, and to no avail. But I did see a tweet from a certain Locked On Mariners account, and it wasn't from me, saying the Mariners should really make a move, because I'm just out here concocting some Ty France and Brian Wu for Carlos Correa and $20 million trade proposals. What are you talking about?
I understand how you, as a smooth brain, might have a difficult time grasping the intricacies of this trade, but yeah, it was either think about that or talk about whether Jorge Soler is worth $15 million or $16 million for the 12th time. So first of all, you're welcome. But second of all, the Twins are looking to cut some payroll. Carlos Correa is making most of the payroll. So obviously they want to move Polanco and Kepler, and they'd probably be open to moving Byron Buxton, but no, that's no. As much as I love Byron Buxton, just no. So Correa, maybe. We know that they like Ty France. We know that they want pitching. So Brian Wu, Ty France for Carlos Correa. And you have to get money. You have to get some cash back, because Correa, even if you just subtract Ty France's number from what Correa is set to make this year, that's still $25 million, and that's the entire budget. And you can't do that. You have to add more than that. But Correa can play short. He can play third. I mean, he's better defensively than JP at short. Is Correa the guy who can finally, you can finally sell JP on moving to second for? Maybe not. But if you can't, I mean, Correa can play third. He's coming off of a down year, but he's just 29 years old. He's only got 5 years left on his contract, not 8 or 9. And, he's just a year removed from a 4.5 win year. Year before that, he was a 6-win player. He's been pretty consistently a 3 to 6 win player, pretty comfortably in the high 3s and low 4s in that range. He's a good player who, doesn't strike out a ton, bonus, walks a ton, bonus, plays really good defense. And even in a down year last year was still about a league average bat. So obviously there are concerns, the ankle that kept him from getting $300 million from 2 different teams last year. Huge concern. But I think you're kind of buying low on Correa. You're buying his age 30 or 29 through 33 seasons. It's the money is the issue. Because if Correa was making $20 million a year, this would probably be a no-brainer. And it'll also be why the Twins wouldn't do it. So yeah, it's a bit of an out there idea, but again, just looking at what the Twins need and what they apparently like on the Seattle roster and what their goal is, you might be able to convince them to move Carlos Correa, particularly if they think Brooks Lee is ready to go, and he probably is ready to see the big leagues. So they have Julian, they have Brooks Lee, like they have their middle infield situated here. Do I think they're going to trade Correa? No, because they'd probably be selling low. Although getting 6 years of Brian Wu for 5 years of Correa, coming off of the year he is with the injury concern, the age, the contract, that's not bad. That's not bad. So, yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was a fun idea.
Okay.
Never going to happen because, again, the Twins will just trade Polanco or Kepler or both before they would trade Correa. But, I mean, like, could you imagine Seattle acquiring the shortstop that fans have been clamoring for the last 2 off seasons? They just get him in a trade instead of signing the
Colby. We don't want
contract.
that cheater on our team.
Yeah. Sure. I'm sure you believe that, or at least that's what you tell people out loud. But you're lying. So yeah, you don't care. Actually, that's right. I'm telling you, you don't care. Yeah, I don't want any Astros on.
This is how you need to fan.
You are lying to yourself. So, just embrace what it is. Carlos Correa is going to be a Seattle Mariner. Fact. No hyperbole there. So, yeah. Like I said, this is on Jerry. Okay. This is on Jerry and Justin and obviously John because they had
not doing anything. Yeah.
Well, for them not doing anything, but also on John for like pulling the e-brake on what they wanted to do and making them start over. So, this is what you get when I'm left to my own devices, Jerry. And so I'm just going to poison the well against you and force you to trade for Carlos Correa because now people are excited about it. So Carlos Correa for Brian Wu, Ty France. You might even be able to get a little bit more and some cash. So I'm just throwing it out there.
You're seeing a man slowly but surely lose his mind in real time on the show, folks.
See, it's interesting because Ty made me start. Ty made me start with my most way out there idea when the next two are like not only like totally legitimate, they're smart. Okay. And even Ty would have to agree with that.
Sure.
Not that you can actually get them done.
So the $20 million is only for 2024, correct?
I mean, I think they just give that to you and you can use it however you want, but
well, because my thing with this would be like, all right, cool, it's affordable for 2024, but what about 2025, 2026, etc. When he's back to being a $30+ million a year guy? Like, does that mean that you're gonna have to think about trading Correa at that point, or trading JP, or
I could trade Correa,
Luis Castillo, Gilbert, etc. Like, does that mean?
I mean, you told me before the show you wanted to trade Julio, so like maybe you could do that instead.
Well, I hate Julio, as we established over the course of the season, right? Yeah. All right, so we actually have a couple of feasible. Well, he does. I don't. Colby has some actual more so feasible ideas that I can actually wrap my head around. We're going to go over those in just a moment, but first, a reminder: this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and a whole lot more. And the Mariners might not be playing right now, but the Kraken and Seahawks are. So whether the action is on turf or on the ice, whether it's Jared McCann or Geno Smith, you can bet on it all with FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's LOCKDON and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the National Football League. You're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you again for making us your first listen. Colby, I've made you look like an absolute sicko over the course of the first segment.
Raise your hands in the comment section if you're buying what I'm saying. You're like, like at the very least, you're like, okay, like, come on. I convinced some people. I know I did.
We'll see. But now there's actually a couple of more feasible ideas that you have that you've talked about on the Patreon show over the last couple weeks. Now you're going to share them here for free.
So this one I came up with before the Dodgers had acquired Glasnow, so I don't know if they'd still be interested, but Logan Gilbert to the Dodgers.
Amari out.
For that's fair. For Michael Busch,
Amari out.
Michael Grove, Diego Cartaya, and Andy Pages, I think is how you pronounce the last name. I've been told it's something different. Pages. For those 4 guys. And I know what you're thinking, like, no, those are prospects. They don't help. Well, first of all, they're all major league ready. Or they've all made their major league. They've either made their major league debut or they are major league ready. But I'm not actually keeping all of those prospects, because instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to dangle Cartaya, who I don't need because I have Cal Raleigh, because I have Harry Ford, because I have some catcher depth already. I don't need Cartaya, but he's a very valuable prospect. So I'm going to put him and Gabriel Gonzalez or Ty Locklear or whatever, a good prospect, not an elite prospect, together. And I'm going to ship them off to the White Sox, where I'm going to go get Dylan Cease and Eloy Jimenez. So the deal is essentially Logan Gilbert and Gabriel Gonzalez. We'll just use him as the stand-in here. Sure. Basically those 2, and I get Michael Busch, Andy Pages, whatever. Sure, Michael Grove, Dylan Cease, and Eloy Jimenez. Like, that's pretty hard to turn down for Logan Gilbert, as much as we love Logan, because I'm getting at least a mid-rotation starter to replace Gilbert for at least 2 years. I'm getting my DH, which I sorely need. I'm getting a potential, 2 potential long-term bats in Busch and Pages, whatever. I'm getting those 2 guys. One of them can play center field. The other one, first base, DH only. Like, let's not kid ourselves. But it is, Ty France insurance. And I also get Michael Grove, who is, probably a number 4 starter ceiling, but at the very least, he is a mid-leverage reliever right now, who I could throw in my bullpen, but also, gives me another name to throw in the back of that rotation with Miller, Wu, who I keep by doing this trade, and Hancock, and now there's Grove. So, and I add Cease. So, I think that's a fun one, and I think that's roughly what you would have to get to trade Logan Gilbert, because you saw what 1 year of Glasnow went for. Gilbert's more durable than Glasnow, and he has 4 times more club control than Glasnow, and he's at least as good, if not just better, straight up, than Glasnow. So 4 years of that guy versus 1 year of Glasnow, I think the trade package I put out there is worth roughly 4 times more than what the Dodgers gave the Rays, in my opinion. So, I mean, it's basically you use Gilbert to get Busch and a couple guys who can help you now, and Cartaya, and then you flip Cartaya along with another good prospect for Gilbert's replacement and your DH. Like, I think there's some creativity to that. I think there's reasonable enough, like approximate enough value changing hands that like we could see something like that still happen. But I think that's pretty much the only path where I could see them trading Logan Gilbert, and I'd be like, okay, like they go and they get just a ton of major league ready prospects and potential impact prospects for Gilbert. And then they use one of those prospects or a couple of those prospects to then go get, Gilbert's replacement and something that also helps the major league roster. So that was just kind of my thinking. Because like, we talked about this on yesterday's show, like it's just hard to see any way they would actually trade Gilbert and get better, because there's not enough teams that even have enough ammunition to get Logan Gilbert in the first place. So I think that's just kind of it's essentially a 3-team deal, but I think that's interesting. I think it raises the floor of the Mariners, certainly. Because again, you're replacing Gilbert with Cease, and now you've added, at least 2 guys who can help you, this year at the big league level, who have 6 years of club control and are making the league minimum. So,
right.
And then you see what you get from Eloy. Hopefully he can play 120 games for the first time in his life. And if he does, he's probably, 115, 120 WRC plus bat. So that's the thinking on that deal.
I think the Dodgers would be into it. I just don't know if the Mariners would at this point right now because, especially because there's no guarantee that you're going to be able to turn around and go get Cease. I mean, you would have to have some sort of
right. Obviously, you'd have to have a good sense, but
yeah, you'd have to have a good sense of that before pulling the trigger on a Gilbert deal. But
it doesn't necessarily have to be Cease because I have another pitcher that we can talk about in just a moment.
Actually, we don't need to go to a break
yet. You're listening.
I appreciate the attempt. Thank you for trying at least. But this idea that you're about to talk about is one of my favorites that you've come up with really all off season. So there you go. That Merry Christmas to you. Giving you a compliment, all that stuff. Very rare for me, of course. What's this brilliant idea, Colby?
Well, first of all, you're listening to Locked On Mariners. Because it's that time, Ty. You're going to make this a 28-minute segment. But also want to throw out there that Ty and I will be exchanging gifts on a live stream on not this channel, but on our other channel, which Ty will definitely put a link to. He definitely won't forget down in the description. That'll be probably Friday after we record Locked On for the day, but we'll see. We'll let you know for sure. But yeah, that'll be fun. And then we'll just hang out and talk.
It will not be family friendly, by the way. Not like
no. So when we unshackle ourselves from our corporate overlords, I almost said overload. Then sometimes we get a little unhinged, but anyway.
So if you're trying to bring the kids, the whole family around and like, hey, let's watch our favorite Mariners YouTubers open up some Christmas gifts, you will be very very surprised.
Yes.
yeah.
Especially if the chat gets
the chat can also,
you guys kind of dictate the talking points of the entire thing. If you guys get unhinged, then we just kind of follow. So
we've given out dating advice, marriage advice,
which seemed to work, and then
seemed to work for a while. But
we're not naming names or anything. But yeah, there's been some weird moments, but we'll be doing that on probably Friday afternoon. We'll let you know. But anyways, this one is kind of a fun one. Ty and I, what was it, last week? We did off-season plans 2.0 because obviously Jerry had to do off-season plan 2.0 and build that from scratch.
Probably more like 4.0, but
yeah, but whatever. So we kind of did the same, and Ty and I had similar-ish trades with the Rays. We, everybody knows about the Rays trades, but I went a different direction. Ty focused on the offense. I decided to go the opposite direction and just double down on my pitching. So I proposed a deal to trade Harry Ford, Tyler Locklear, and Dylan Moore to the Milwaukee Brewers for starting pitcher Freddie Peralta and a prospect named Bradley Blaylock, who isn't really important to our discussion, but Freddie Peralta is the guy here. 3 years of club control left. It's one, and then there's a couple team options, but you're going to pick up the team options because Freddie Peralta is well worth $21 million, which is all you would pay him for the next 3 years. And that's why you have to give up Harry Ford, who's a good prospect, and Tyler Locklear, who's a good prospect, who probably can help the Brewers this year, which is why he's going to carry some value in a trade and why I picked Locklear instead of somebody like Gonzalez, who's probably going to be a couple years away. Freddie Peralta just set a career high in innings pitched this year, career high in strikeouts. You guys know Freddie Peralta. He's the guy that you love to scream from the mountaintops that Jerry gave that guy up for Adam Lynn. Like anybody knew Freddie Peralta was going to be a legit number 3 starter at the time. But yeah, he's 28 years old, made 30 starts this last year. First time in his career he's ever done that. Career high in innings pitched, 11.41 K per 9, 2.93 base on ball per 9, which is a career low. Trending in the right direction. Had some home run issues last year. That's kind of the only thing that really prevented him from taking a massive step forward, but he did, he was still a 3-win pitcher. 3.85 FIP, 3.42 xFIP. Strikes a lot of guys out. Elite extension. on the fastball, very similar to Logan Gilbert, despite being just, 5'11" and about 195. So Freddie Peralta, I would say legit number 3, who still has number 2 or even number 1 upside. Plus fastball, plus slider, plus changeup, and a pretty decent cutter. And we know how much the Mariners like those cutters. So Peralta is a fun guy. I think that if you can't get the bats that you want or you need, right, then maybe instead of just going out there and giving Mitch Garver $18 million just to make sure you get somebody, go out there and, fill the holes with the Carlos Santana types, the Tommy Pham types, whatever, but go out there with a rotation of Luis Castillo, George Kirby, Logan Gilbert, Freddie Peralta, Bryce Miller, Brian Wu, like whoever you want to throw in that
eventually.
Yeah, like you're going to win a lot of 3-2 games, especially if you double down then and then go get a good reliever. Like instead of giving $15 million to Mitch Garver, go get $15 million to Robert Stevenson, and then you have those 5 guys, and then you go with Stevenson and Brash and Munoz and just say, look, we couldn't fix our offense this offseason because our owner is awful. He's a bad person and he's a bad businessman. So we couldn't fix our offense because they're just the supply didn't meet demand, right? There's just way too much demand and not enough supply. So instead of just banging our heads against the wall, we're just going to walk around it. And instead of trying to win games 5-4, we're going to win games 3-2. And we're going to do it with this pitching staff, which we have a nickname for that we unfortunately can't say on Locked On, but
the frick you rotation.
Sure, the FU staff, yes, and bullpen. So that's my idea.
You're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you again for making us your first listen. So before we get out of here, I want to talk about some minor league deals that could potentially go down. Some spring training invites, some veterans the Mariners could bring in on minor league deals. Last year, they brought in guys like Cole Calhoun and Colin Moran, Mike Ford, who obviously actually had an impact on the 2023 Mariners Ball Club. And what kind of sparked this conversation, because, like I said earlier, we talked about this on our Patreon show yesterday, is, it feels like a lot of these teams that make runs deep into the season, even win the World Series, sometimes have at least one of those guys that they brought in on a minor league contract or a very, very, very small major league contract. Just a veteran who it seems like he's fallen off a cliff. They somehow get wild production. That guy, like Jason Hayward last year with the Dodgers, or Travis Jankowski this past year with the Rangers. He was really good for them, especially in the first half, and then he was a World Series hero for them a little bit as well. The Rangers also did this with Hunter Pence a couple of years ago. The Yankees did it with Matt Carpenter in 2022. There's usually like a couple of those guys at least on a per year basis that pop like that. So the Mariners, with their payroll restrictions, are probably going to have to hit on one of those guys if we had to guess, because not everything is going to go according to plan either, right? On the back end of your roster, right? Guys might get hurt, guys might not perform the way you want them to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So probably going to need one of these minor league free agents essentially. And now I can hear you all furiously typing away, I don't want any of these guys because they suck and they've fallen off. That's the point. That's why they're signing minor league deals with spring training invites. That's what it is. A couple of guys that I like just to get the ball rolling here. Jonathan Scope, former Tigers, Twins, second baseman, first baseman, Orioles as well. He's had quite a few good years, but the last couple of years he's literally hit for like a 50 WRC plus. So he's been terrible. But he's only 31 years old, I believe. Let me double check that. 32 years old. 32 years old. He had 3 consecutive 100 WRC plus seasons before he fell off a cliff. Again, we're just trying to look for guys that might just randomly pop, right? They might make a tweak or something. Just maybe it's just completely inexplicable, like it has been for some of these guys, like Travis Jankowski, right? So Jonathan Scope's a guy who has track record. Jurickson Profar is another guy that has track record of success, and it seems like he's good one year, he's bad one year, he's good one year, he's bad one year. He's coming off of a terrible year down in Colorado. maybe that's a guy that you take a shot on and you actually get some pretty decent production out of. And I would consider it a success even if they're good for like 2 weeks, right? Because it's a minor league deal. You literally risk nothing with these minor league deals. There are no, like, let's make this very clear. There is no such thing as a bad minor league deal unless if it's for someone that has like off the field issues. But other than that, no such thing as a bad minor league deal because you risk literally nothing with them. So Colby,
Hello,
are there
Mike
any?
Ford.
Yeah, that's right. And Mike Ford's another one of those guys. If he doesn't get a major league offer out there, bring him back. Bring him back on a minor league deal. Would love to have him around on under those circumstances. So, Colby, are there any minor league free possibilities, right? Because like we don't know if these guys are going to end up getting minor league. I mean, there's some guys where it's pretty obvious, but there's also guys that are kind of on the fringe of like, are they going to get like maybe a $2 million major league deal? Who knows? But who do you like?
Right.
Out of that group?
It's worth noting that if there is some, debate about whether or not a guy will get a minor league deal or a veteran minimum or something like that, the Mariners do have 40-man spots. So they just decide like, hey, we just want this guy in our camp. Let's just give him a 40-man spot. It doesn't mean it's the end of the world unless that guy sucks and they carry him into their, 2023 roster because they don't want to cut him for some reason, Tommy La Stella. So, by the way, the Mets have acquired Adrian Hauser and Tyrone Taylor from the Brewers for a prospect. That's a salary dump trade.
Okay.
So the Brewers, they're probably going to trade Burns and Adames, and that'll be, more salary, but maybe they're willing to trade Freddie Peralta. Anyways, so
topical. Very topical.
Yeah. Connections. Austin Nola, as just kind of a fourth catcher, bring him in, see if you can help him get back to anywhere close to what he was with Seattle. He's an interesting guy. Trey Mancini, who really fell off since he left Baltimore. He's a guy that might get a major league deal, but he's not going to get more than $1 million.
Who does he share an agent with, though, Colby?
I don't know. I don't care about agents.
Russell Wilson.
So, I don't care. Will Myers, maybe. Interesting guy. Darren Ruff, who I can't believe is only 37 and still playing baseball. Dominic Smith had a really good September. He might get a major league deal, but he doesn't strike out. Former first-round pick, former top prospect, yada, yada. We know how much Jerry likes those guys. How about Jared Walsh? Former Angels
Really
first baseman, who unfortunately things fell apart for him in Anaheim. He had some mental health issues, I believe. He took some time away from baseball, but if he's ready to play, that's definitely a guy you might want to take a shot on. He's only 30 years old.
Speaking of a guy that's dealt with some mental health issues, Austin Meadows is a guy that you mentioned during the Patreon show yesterday. I love that idea if he's, ready and willing to play baseball right now. Because again, like we're trying to think of guys that like, is there some track record there? Are there still tools there? Is there something that could lead to them popping? And like Austin Meadows is definitely a guy that still has some tools, at least in theory. Jared Walsh is another guy that has some tools in theory and just has like some other issues that have cropped up that have led to their struggles for one reason or another.
Some other guys that I throw out there, Gene Segura, Colton Wong, Brian Anderson. Maybe Brian Anderson, Hunter Dozier, Mike Moustakas.
The Mariners did really like Brian Anderson the last couple of off seasons. Last off season for sure, because Ryan Divish kept on talking about him, so it seemed like he was being told like they were really interested in Anderson, but they didn't sign him, and he went on to have a bad year anyway. So who knows? But that's a guy to definitely keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah, Raimel Tapia maybe. Jesse Winker, Kyle Lewis, Brett Phillips,
right?
Throw him out there. I mean, Cole Calhoun. They did it last year, and he had some moments with Cleveland. So maybe that's a way they could go. Mike Ford, obviously, kind of the big one. Daniel Vogelback getting a major league deal. I don't know. I don't know.
He might from like
Oakland.
The A's,
Pittsburgh, something like that. Like
Pittsburgh,
yeah. How about Spencer Turnbull?
Yeah,
maybe Dakota Hudson is a guy who has to think about that.
I'm not saying no to any pitcher.
Yeah.
So like
Jose Urania, maybe. There's some guys. Brad Boxberger, potentially Carl Edwards Jr. How about Jesse Chavez?
Wait, hold on. The string bean slinger?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man.
Yanni Chirinos, maybe. Brent Honeywell to Nelson Lamette. Like, yeah, there's some guys. I think my favorite is
Erasmo
probably
Ramirez.
I think Ramirez signed a major league contract.
Did
I'm
he?
pretty sure.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
pretty sure.
Good for Erasmo.
Yeah. My favorite is probably Jared Walsh. I like that idea. Austin Meadows, if they're both, ready to go, they want to give it a shot. I'd be happy to give them the opportunity. Brian Anderson is a fun one. I wish things ended better for Kyle Lewis in Seattle, because that would be a fun shot. And the fact that the Oakland A's haven't signed Kyle Lewis and just plan to make him their everyday DH this year is absolutely shocking to me. But
yeah. Oh wow.
Whatever.
Erasmo signed a minor league deal with the Rays back on the 6th.
Minor league deal. Okay. Well, there you go. So yeah, there's some guys, but you're hoping to hit on one of them. And again, if there's a guy that you really think you can help, like there's a tweak you can make and you think he can be at least a role player for you, not the worst thing in the world to give that guy $1 million and a 40-man spot to start spring training. It's really easy to cut that guy if he doesn't work out. So, and the Mariners have done this in the past. They've get like Dylan Moore, for example. They really wanted Dylan Moore. Dylan Moore had a lot of other opportunities, so they just said, "We'll give you a major league deal. We'll give you a guaranteed 26-man spot, at least to start spring training." And that's what led to that signing. So the Mariners could do that again with Walsh or Brian Anderson if it's just like $1 million, $1.5 million, something like that. So just keep an eye on guys like that.
Yeah, I really like the Meadows and Walsh ideas. I like Jonathan Scope, Bergson Profar, and again, any pitcher that doesn't have off the field issues, I'm not saying no to, because like the Mariners pitching development, whether it's late in your career, early in your career, doesn't matter. They've been able to help some guys get their careers back on track. So, I'm open to really any and all of those possibilities. All right, that's going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Ty Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Ty Gonzalez, Colby at CPAT11, that's CPAT11. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode. Thank you again for making us your first listen. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.